So welcome to the Motherhood panel at GCAP. This is certainly a first for our particular game developer conference, and maybe certainly a first in Australia. And you've joined the trials, tribulations and triumphs of motherhood in the games industry. And this has come about from the discussions that all of us on stage have had with many other women within our sector, whether it be within our own businesses, who are our friends, who are external to our businesses. There's a lot of women out there that are currently thinking, should I become a mother? What does it mean to be a mother working? How did it impact your career? How did it not impact your career? What does it mean? What will my life look like? We've all been fielding questions like that now for many, many, many years. There's a lot of fear in that decision, and people just want to share and find out how others have done it or not, how they may not have done it. As an industry, there's a common perception out there that we're a really young industry, and I guess, you know, when you look at traditional other screen industries, we are young, but we're not. You know, people have been making games around the world for many, many, many years, and they've certainly been making games in Australia for a long time. There's a lot more maturity in the sector, and that's reflected in these type of questions that we've been getting. We've all been through many different cycles of game development and the game industry, and we've all had lots of different experiences. I think why we're getting these questions a lot more now is, you know, it's a slow road, but the diversity in the sector is definitely changing, it's definitely improving. So you are seeing a lot more women making games, creating games, being part of the industry, and I guess holding some of those senior leadership positions. Can I just have a quick show of hands from the audience? Who here's a parent?
Oh, yay.
Lots of you. Congratulations. The other thing that we've heard and we hear and continue to hear every other day is that women are really hell-bent on keeping their jobs and performing their jobs well. And sometimes that reflects on, you know, do new dads feel the same pressure as well? That's another common thing that we all get asked very, very, very frequently. So you're about to hear some diverse stories from some amazing women. Just to do the intros, for those that don't know me, I'm Raelene Knowles. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at IGEA. I've been with IGEA for 15 years. I'm also probably the oldest person here by a mile. I've got, I always call them my boys. They're two young adult men. Hayden's 21, Cooper is 18. So I'm certainly at a different end of the parenting journey. Over to Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess. I am mother of 1.5-year-old Isabel. She is currently a toddler whirlwind, and we have to take her to the park twice a day to run off her energy like she's a Kelpie dog. I come from a background of animation and visualization. I've only joined the games industry recently, and I am narrative lead on a game called Memento, which we started at the same time that Isabel was born. So we joke that Memento is like Isabel's famous twin sister. Yeah.
Famous.
Hello everyone, my name is Elle. I'm a mum to three boys, a 5-year-old, a 3.5-year-old and a 10-month-old who you may have seen roaming around GCAP over the last few days. Here's my little Dev. Our house is always chaos. There is lots of crying, there is lots of screaming, there's lots of fighting, there is lots of monster trucks. There is lots of tripping over said monster trucks. I'm a senior artist. I've worked in the industry since 2008. I've done lots of different roles, but I just do general art. Currently, I'm having a break from the industry since I have a 10-month-old who demands all my time.
I'm Kendra. Hi, everyone. I'm the mother of a 13-year-old daughter, Scarlett, who I'm very proud of. And I started in the industry kind of late in my career. I started in film and joined the games industry through motion capture and managed a lot of AAA art teams. And now I'm the founder and studio head for Panellists North in Queensland.
So we've got quite a mix. Now, in doing this panel, we actually went out and spoke to a lot of women about what they're thinking and what their concerns are. And so we're just going to give you a quick 2-minute video just so you can see what the sector's thinking or what some of their experiences have been.
It was like instant 3 kids overnight, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. I guess now fast forward 16 years later, I could say it did in some ways, but in ways like I wouldn't have expected.
The amount of catch-up that I would take would greatly affect where I was at in my career when I came back versus where I'm at right now.
The nature of the industry can be quite demanding, depending on the type of company or the type of project that you're working on. But I'd like to think that we've structured our business not to impact that in any way, shape or form. So short answer for me would be no.
I do think that becoming a mother would probably affect my career progression. I have taken time out from the games industry previously to go into a different career, and I know that just taking that time away from the industry, it kind of stalled my progress.
One of my biggest fears having Emmy was that I wouldn't be able to do it anymore in the caliber I expect myself to be able to do it.
I was told on no uncertain terms that it would crucify my career, that it would basically mean that my career would be stopped, that there would be no future. I'd have no more career progression if I did become a parent. And so, I mean, that was part of the reason why I never did.
And I was about to make a pretty important point there, but these are just some of the experiences that women have had in thinking about how becoming a mother was going to affect their career. So sorry you missed the rest of that video. We can share it. Just contact us if you need it. But we're just going to jump straight into what our experiences have been within the workplace. So Elle, what did it mean to be pregnant when you're at work?
It gave a whole new meaning to the word exhaustion, uncomfortable. It was, I didn't want to be treated any different being pregnant at work. I still want to be, part of the team and doing everything the way I was doing it before. It meant hiding a lot of my symptoms as well. I did work in an office full of dads at the time, so I think they sort of understood what I was going through if I did ever bring it up. But yeah, there was definitely that pressure I put on myself to keep up.
Yeah, definitely. What was your experience, Jess?
So my experience was a little bit different because we were kind of self-employed at the moment. We just released Smash Crates, our first game, which made zero money because we didn't really look into releasing an indie title like the right way. So we were like, what the hell? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's try for a kid. And then I think I was about 6 or 7 months pregnant when the Screen Queensland residency became an option for us. And we're like, should we try this out? And we ended up doing so. And thankfully, the Screen Queensland people were really, really accommodating for our situation, and they allowed me to go on a maternity leave, and they were really understanding in the fact that I may never want to come back to actually be in the residency. But so that was kind of what happened. I did come back to the residency and I was able to do everything that I wanted to do, but yeah, I wouldn't say it was a bad situation. I felt like I had to hide it. But I think because I was in that particular circumstance where I wasn't trying to keep a career, it was a blessing in many ways.
Yeah, what about you, Kendra?
My experience was definitely quite different to that. It was a long time ago, and I think the industry's changed a lot, but I was working for a AAA game studio, and I was in the prime of my career. I was 34, so I wasn't very young. And I'd always said that I was never going to be a mother. That was my thought at the time, and that my career was everything to me. And I'd just been promoted. I built the biggest motion capture studio in the Southern Hemisphere for my company. I'd achieved a lot. I was promoted to manage the art team, a AAA art team. And I actually found out I was pregnant at work in the toilets. I just had a weird feeling suddenly, and I cried hysterically, and all I could think about is, what's this going to do to my career? I had just really kind of felt like I'd made it. And I tried to reflect on, I've done a lot here, my team was absolutely amazing, and I felt pretty safe because of what I'd achieved, and I was respected. But 4 months into my pregnancy, we had a change of management, and I could just kind of tell by the new tone at the executive table that this was going to be seen as a risk. So I had to hide my pregnancy, which is quite difficult because I had 24/7 morning sickness and was very ill. But I knew that it was going to jeopardise my job. I could tell. And so I fought so hard to hide it, but then once I did have to reveal that I was pregnant, and I could start feeling a shift in change. I wasn't included in the decision making anymore. My new boss started saying, oh, you won't want to return. As soon as you see the baby, you're not going to want to be here, and things like that. And I crunched like crazy with my team. I'd broken my pelvis running on a treadmill when I was pregnant, which is really silly and should have been on bed rest, but I still did between 12 and 17-hour days because I felt like I had to prove my worth and was desperate to come back and continue my career. My parents moved back from Hong Kong to help me return to work in 4 weeks. So I went back at 3 weeks with my little baby under my arm to say, I'm ready and I'll come back. I'll be here next week. My parents are flying in, and HR was brought into the meeting and they said, you know, we think we can probably make do without you. And it was the most crushing experience of my career. I felt like I wasn't worth continuing, like in my position, despite saying I wasn't going to miss a single milestone. Would have been there. Yeah,
and I think that's a common crux. It's the pressure we put on ourselves, and also sometimes like the pregnancy journey isn't smooth. Yeah. A lot of people sail through it. A lot of people are really sick, and there's a lot of different experiences in between. So, and that's the same when it comes to returning to work from maternity leave. I think when I had my kids, you had 12 months maternity leave, but there was no money or anything like that, no government assistance or anything like that, so that upped the pressure again. So how did you find returning to work, Elle, from maternity leave?
So I had about 3 months off of maternity leave before I returned to my work at the time. It was really tough. It was a really tough period of my life. My baby we had a really bad birth. I had really bad birth trauma. He slept poorly, he didn't put on weight, I had really bad postnatal depression, we had bonding trouble, and then going to work was kind of like, it was my weekend. I loved going to work. So you could go to work, you could see other adults, and you could do your job, but I was definitely not functioning at 100%, and I felt the guilt of letting the team down, and then I felt guilt of letting my bub down when I came home as well. So yeah, it was a really tough time returning to work, but I loved working and I loved also being a mum as the months progressed and the troubles, started to improve, and Bub was putting on weight, and he was sleeping, and my depression got better, and eventually it all started to sort of improve down the track. But yeah, I always had that guilt of letting the team down and letting my family down.
And Kendra, did you find another place to work?
I didn't, unfortunately. There was no paid paternity leave at that time either, or government, and I'd used my 4 weeks of annual leave to have my baby, and it was the GFC, so nobody was hiring at all. So I didn't return to work. I thought that was it for me in the games development career. So I didn't return to work until she was 13 months. I was 13 months old. I was really lucky, but because my whole identity and self-worth and kind of ego was wrapped up in my profession and my career that I was very proud of, I went through a lot of depression and felt completely worthless, like I wasn't worth anything after I'd had my daughter. So it was a bit of a tricky time. Yeah. Grateful for that time now, though. Yeah. In hindsight, grateful for the time.
All right. Elle, how does it feel to be the working mum in an office full of fathers, which you touched on before?
It was interesting. I loved the fact that I worked with a bunch of dads. It was interesting. We could connect on things that we didn't connect over before. You could come into work and, you suddenly understood why, the other dads were tired when they had little kids. It's like, oh, I get it now. I get it. They're not being lazy. They're just really tired because their child's not sleeping. Or, you could connect over why your children are sick again because they're all going to daycare and they're bringing home gastro. And, so it was really lovely working with an office full of dads. But it was also interesting seeing the different challenges that we faced. And I think there was definitely a load as a mum that I had to, do that I think fathers didn't, a lot of fathers probably don't have to do. I had to, I was breastfeeding my baby, so I had to, duck off every 3 times a day to express, and, it felt sort of really awkward, but, I had a private room that I could do that in. I think as a mum is a lot of logistical things that you have to do that I feel like a lot of other people, other men's wives tend to end up doing. So I did have some of those burdens that I felt was sort of a bit more unique to me. But yeah, overall it was, I think, a positive experience going back to work and having, other dads you could kind of lean on and talk to, and they could understand your challenges.
Yeah, kids are the great leveller, aren't they? It doesn't matter what your background is, you can always somehow find something to talk about with another parent. So, and that's really important in the workplace as well. So, I think, society still sees parents differently, and certainly mums differently. How did your staff see you once you were a mum, Jess?
So I was in quite a unique position where the Memento team, the core team, we're all parents. My partner is one of them, and then our other co-worker is also a mother of, she's currently a 3-year-old, but Jasmine is also a mother. So every day when we go in and we bond about the shenanigans our kids have been up to over the weekend or over the night. Like, are they sleeping? Are they sneaking out and getting to the biscuits and everything? And I think that was great as a working mum, because early on in motherhood, you have a chance to make mothers groups, but once you return to work, suddenly you can't make the days that all the mothers groups are joining in on. So those groups sort of fizzle away, and just having Jasmine there as another newish mother, she also sort of became that mothers group and that support that you really need to express all those difficulties about really early childhood, like not sleeping and just trying to introduce allergens, which is a huge task for us because Isabel is allergic to peanuts and potentially green beans now, and who knows what else. So I would love to see more places that have mothers in the workplace, because it is a great chance for all those other mothers out there and all those people who want to become mothers, because they have people to talk to, and it's really, really important for that early childhood, and everything becomes so isolating so quickly.
Yeah, and that's a really good point about the mothers groups often falling away because no one can, you have one night out a year because there's one date that you can all connect on. So we spoke about it briefly before. Kendra, do you think there's still a stigma about working mums, and not only in the office but out of the office?
Yes, there definitely is. And I think a point that I think it's important to not shy away from this, that even though I'm a woman in this industry, a mother who lost her job when she had her baby, I still look at the business risk whenever I'm interviewing women of a particular age, and that's unfortunate, but it doesn't actually change because that's your circumstance. It is a risk to the business and how you're going to deliver a project. It's a fact that we need to look at. And I hope that maybe later in this talk we're going to talk a bit about the solutions about how to ease that and make it a little bit of an easier journey, but definitely outside as well. When I did return to work, I still had to work crazy amount of hours. It was still the crunch culture back then. And my mother would take my daughter to Cub Scouts because I wouldn't get home till 7 p.m. And one day that I had a day off, I went there, and the scout leader called me out in front of absolutely everybody and was like, "We didn't think you even existed. We didn't think you were real. We didn't think Scarlett actually had a mum." And I was just kind of frozen in the moment, and even got all the other mothers to join in, and even pulled out my very, very shy daughter and said, "She's never here, is she?" to my poor kid. I was so mortified and embarrassed, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a single working mum," and tried to justify it. But I think I cried for about a week solidly before I realised I should be really angry that she did that to me. I felt so humiliated that she didn't know my circumstance. She had no idea who I was or what I was doing, but I really felt like a giant failure for my daughter in that period of time. So there's definitely a stigma on the outside as well as a working mum.
I've heard that story a few times now, and I'm
All my
still really
stories sound
angry
awful,
about it. We're all still pretty angry about it, and yeah, I think a lot of us have had the burning eyes when you're in the playground in your corporate outfit and you don't do canteen and
The teachers especially. Ooh, the test says from the teachers.
So yeah, parent-teacher interviews. Anyway, that's another panel. That's next year. I guess a big question that we often get, and this is one where I think we've all had, is like, can you do it all? Should you have to do it all? What have you found, Jess?
I think that you can do it all, but you can't do it all at the same time. There's always something that's going to have to be sacrificed. Our daughter Isabel, she's now in daycare like 4 days a week, and I know she's having like the best time there. She's such a social kid. And then we work those 4 days a week, and while it's really great for the work-life balance, you know, there's always those times where Isabel might get sick and then one of us has to sacrifice our working time to take care of her. And then when we're working, we're not spending time with Isabel per se, and there's going to be so many years where we can't take a holiday because we're currently working, we're currently taking care of a really young child, and we don't have the money to go on holidays and take those breaks. But I know that this phase will end, you know. There'll be times where we can look after Isabel a lot but not work a lot. There'll be times we can go on holidays and all that sort of stuff. So you can do it all, but, you know, it's such a juggling act, and you shouldn't feel guilty that you can't do it all at once, you know.
Yeah, definitely wise words there. So there's a lot of discussion generally about hybrid working environments and office hours. Elle, do you think 9 to 5 is still really a thing in the modern workplace, considering our industry, like thinking about our industry, and if it is or it isn't, how do you manage it?
For a working mum, I think short answer is no, not really. I think it can change according to, you know, everyone's circumstances. For me, it was one of the reasons why I decided to leave my last job. I had really it was really great that my bosses could give me really good flexible working hours at the time, and I was even able to work from home 1 or 2 days a week, and I was able to do 4 days. So I did that with my first 2 children. But when I had my third child, when I looked at returning to work, there were some challenges with having flexible hours. You know, sometimes you want to work on something that somebody else is not around for at the same time. You need to work together, and you know, the office wanted to move back into that, you know, having everyone that was around at the same time, and it didn't quite. You know, for me, the logistics of, you know, breastfeeding, looking after kids, daycare drop-offs, kindy drop-offs and pickups, you know, it just didn't work. So, so that was one of the reasons why I ended up actually leaving and having a break in my career.
In school holidays. Every 10 weeks.
Oh my God, I know.
Remember when you used to think daycare was hard? And it'd be so good when they get to school when you've got to find 14 weeks of annual leave. Yes. Take note. Our industry does require a fair bit of travel, generally speaking. I think those of us that have been around for long enough, you know, we all report through to international companies, and or you've got to go and meet your partners overseas. So how did you manage travelling as a working mum, Kendra?
It is very hard. Right now, my work is I'm moving more into a business development role, just based off the need, so I have to travel. There is certainly an expectation. I work in a group where there's a bunch of different studios collectively, and all the other studio heads are men who have wives that can stay with their kids. I also have a kid with epilepsy, or a condition similar to epilepsy, so she's special needs, and I'm a single mum, and leaving her is so difficult, although I also love travelling and love being able to do these opportunities. But I'm really supported with that, which is quite amazing. They understand. But I have been caught a couple of times crying in the toilet coming out the last time I was here, like this time last year. missing my kid when she says, please, I need you, come home, and that kind of thing is really quite difficult to manage. I'm very fortunate to have my parents really available and Scarlett's dad to help out with that period of time. But also on the flip side of it is I feel like, when they're like, don't worry, you don't need to go this one, we'll go to Tokyo and do this. I feel like I'm missing out when I don't go. So it's kind of it's a win or lose situation, but just try to make the most of it when you are away and recognise that they're in good hands and stay focused while you get the opportunity to travel. But it feels bit of a bummer when I can't go on the trips. So and you think you're trying to help me, but but you can do it, especially now that Scarlett's older. It's a lot easier.
They do like coming on the odd work trip where they can. So now we're just going to quickly have a quick chat about how becoming a mum changed you, because it fundamentally does. So Jess, what's your experience been?
I became way more focused in the times that I could work, just because my brain could finally have a break of just the boredom of looking after a really young child. So those hours that I could do work, and early on it was only like 2 days a week because my partner Julian and we kind of split the work week. So he would take 2 days taking care of Izzy, I would take 2 days taking care of Izzy, and then 3 days both of us would be there. So those 2 days, I just got so much work done, and I think that's really helped with Memento getting to where it is at the moment, is that you're just so short on time, so you really prioritise things that are important to the project and important to you. So I would say focused, more empathetic, very patient. Like you have to become very patient with a young child, especially when they're screaming no at you just all day long about everything. So I would say I definitely like the way that I have changed after having a young child.
Yeah, and what about you, Elle?
It's interesting. I think I had a bit of the opposite problem of being able to be super focused, because suddenly when I had, even just 30 minutes to myself, I would just be frozen on the spot with choice paralysis, just not knowing what to do because there's 1,000 things to do, and then nothing would get done. But it definitely made me more empathetic. It definitely made me listen more, especially when someone had, something negative that's happened to them. I felt like I had more time, I think, listening to people as well. It made me, I don't know, it almost made me see people as extra human.
Yeah, and I think they're all important. And I think, like, as an employer and the same, it's you very much, we've often said, if you want something done, give it to a mum. Because they do get it done in half the time because you have to. There is no option other than to do that. So one thing we really want to talk about now is, what are some of the solutions? How can we support working mothers who are our colleagues, who are our employees, who are our friends, who are our relatives? What are some of the solutions that we need to think about? So, Kendra.
Okay, redundancy, and not the kind that I experienced, but hire enough staff. And this isn't just for mothers and for women who want to take a little break from their career and have a child and start a family, which they should be able to do. Let's get rid of this crunch culture. It's absolutely ridiculous. So hire enough people to cover the job so that there is the ability to hand over work and let somebody leave and just take a little break. That was a really important one, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
What was the question? Flexible working arrangements. Which one? No, tell me, what did I say?
Solutions.
Oh, you were going to talk about that one. Sorry. You go. Okay, I'm sure I had a different point, but I can't remember what it was. Okay.
I think.
So one of the things that really helped me, it was huge, was flexible working arrangements. And I think it's one of the absolute biggest things you can give any working parent is, the ability to be able to work from home, even if it's just like a day or two a week, being able to move their hours around so, they can do child pickup and drop off from schools or kindies or appointments. They will, a parent will do the hours, even if it's in the evening. I know I had to a lot in the past once the kids had gone to bed.
COVID kind of helped mothers
Yes,
a lot
COVID, yeah.
by making that a thing. Like work from home was not a possibility at all. Yeah, previously.
Our office was set up for working from home after COVID, so that did make things a lot easier in that regard. So, I mean, working from the office, I enjoy working from the office more than working from home, for sure. But yeah, when I absolutely had to, it was at least an option so I could continue doing my work. But yeah, working from home with a small child is not easy. So I always try to make sure, like, you know, they're either in daycare on those days or grandma had them or some such. Yeah.
I remembered what I was going to say. Paternity leave is really, really big deal because fathers having time off supports women having children as well. So leave entitlements is really, really important. And also a point that I remember you making that I went and implemented in my company is make sure that the maternity leave policy is somewhere accessible so they don't feel like they need to ask somebody. It's nobody's business if you're considering having a kid and you just want to explore what the option is. So make sure it's somewhere where people can go and have a look at it without needing to ask anybody. I think that's kind of important.
And to echo that, have a maternity leave policy.
Yes. I'm actually really proud to work for a company that goes well above and beyond, especially now in paternity leave and maternity leave and adoptive leave and all the other kinds of leaves as well. It's really, really important. We need more people.
Another thing you can do to help working mothers return, you come back from work, so come back to work after, you know, spending time at home with Bob, especially if they're breastfeeding, is having a private room that they can use to express. So it's, you know, it's a ton of work having to do that, and, you know, telling them to go use the toilet is just ridiculous. So fortunately, I was never in that circumstance where I was told to do that. I was lucky with my first baby, we were in a building where I had to go ask the landlord to use a spare room, and that was a nightmare. But, you know, I did get a spare room. And in the second baby, we were in a different building where we had a meeting room. So, you know, that was good that I could go use that. I just covered the windows with some sheets that I had put together, and I was able to use that room and just have some privacy. So definitely having something set up for a returning mother like that would make their life a lot easier. And even like having a spot in the fridge for them to like put any express milk as well. So, you know, everyone is staring at it when they go get their milk for their coffees.
And don't make them ask you. You should be providing that. It's kind of humiliating to ask that. You already feel like you're a big bother and a bit of a burden when you come back. You're feeling a little unsure of yourself and a bit uncomfortable. So even having to ask for special consideration feels humiliating and like you don't want to do it. So, yeah, if you can be on the forefront of that.
I think another one that is really important, and I'm gonna sound like a bit of a government shill at the moment, but grants. Just having more grants was really important to us, because once we got that funding, Julian could quit his working in VFX 4 days a week. I could come back onto the team, and we could actually support ourselves in, you know, full-time making a game. So I think more government funding, if we could have initiatives for women and for parents, that would be fantastic as well. And I think just in general, having conversations in the workplace. So don't make discussing children taboo, and don't make people have to apologise for talking about their children over and over again, because it really becomes your identity once you have a child. You are lacking in sleep. Your entire life in those early years revolves around making sure that human is still alive. So, yeah, having fathers also discuss their families as well as mothers. And, you know, when you're asking a woman about her family, make sure to ask her male colleagues as well. I think just as a base level, this is a great way of starting to make it more, I want to say mainstream, but I'm not sure that's the right word. And, you know, I feel like these policies will come forward from more people just discussing the challenges that they are facing in the workplace, both fathers and mothers. Like, I want to say things like, down with capitalism and down with the patriarchy, but I don't think we can quite institute those right away, but we can start talking to each other about these things right away, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think we started this panel talking about, we've all been asked about, you know, should I become a mum? What did it mean? What would you say to would-be parents, Elle? Or what are you saying to all of those people who are asking you right now?
What would I say to a would-be parent or someone who's thinking about it? I'd say there is never a good time. I know that's probably, you hear that all the time. There is never a good time to become a parent. There was never a good time for me to become a parent. I just kind of was like, why the hell not? Let's just bloody do it. And just dove in, and you just kind of have to see what happens. And honestly, you never regret the child that you have, but you might regret the one that you don't. And I think, yeah, you just have to do it. You just have to try, I think.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I guess flipping that, what would you say to employers of pregnant staff or parents-to-be, Kendra?
Start the conversation. Don't let them bring it up to you. And I think the most important point I'd like to make is I'd like to tell the women who work for me and anybody who's thinking about becoming a mum or is pregnant that you are worthy of the spot that you've worked so hard for, and taking a tiny break from your career does not affect it long term. I hope I'm a good example of that. You are worthy of your spot, and falling behind a little bit, you're going to catch up. Don't worry about that. You deserve a spot in this industry, and we won't have more women in this industry unless we allow them to be able to have a proper work-life balance and make choices for their own personal selves. Yeah. So I guess the first thing I'd say is, what can I do to help you through this transition?
And I think one thing I really noticed is the role modelling element. So, you know, my kids are older, and I basically worked for a bunch of men that were really family friendly and family focused, and I still work with one like that. Do you know what I mean? So I went back part-time, and I kind of did what I needed to do, and always felt welcome. So they, you know, because of their own journey as fathers and as parents, it translated into the workforce. And to your point, Jess, like, don't talk about it. Talk about what it's like to be a family. And even now, you know, I think most of our staff have got kids, and you know, someone will put in the chat, oh, such and such has been up all night, blah blah blah, and my first response is usually family first. See when it's okay.
Love that.
You know what I mean? We're not curing cancer. No one's going to die if you need 4 hours off today. You know, so I think that's, like, I've felt that as an employee and an employer. Just those sorts of words are super important as well. So, we all have a responsibility, is the long and short of it. So, got another little vid here for you.
Is to actually have proper parental leave, have proper support, so that reduce things like crunch, and particularly expectations around things like crunch. Because the reality is, we're not saving lives here, even though we'd like to think it. We're not someone's life is not necessarily, dependent on us fixing that bug that night.
You know, particularly for new mums, maybe, before school starts, it's flexibility. Even when school starts, it's flexibility. It's knowing that someone might clock off between 3:30 and 5:30 because they're getting dinner and everything sorted, but then we'll jump back on.
A supportive environment at work where they can perhaps work part-time, where they can have more work from home days would really help, because, and being able to bring kids into the office, that is actually something my current studio does. And I know a lot of the dads, funnily enough, take advantage of that.
Clear pathways for progression, I feel, is really important. And that can be through mentoring programs and bringing them up into leadership positions as well. We have so few female leads or directors within our games industry. I'd really like to see, once they have hit industry, that's not the end.
I would love to make a studio that can confidently say, yes, you can, because we know what it's like, because it's we want you to be able to achieve that professional goals that you set, but also not have to sacrifice your family or time with your family, which I know is easier said than done. There's so many facets to it, running a business and being able to balance how do you provide really good paid time off or maternity leave that's better than what's offered just as a standard.
talk to your staff members and find out what it is that they are looking for in terms of support. How can we be more supportive? Don't go with just off-the-shelf stuff that, you know, Google and Apple and whoever else are offering. Talk to your staff about what's important to them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. Okay, there. Before we go to Q&A, question for the panel. Would you do it all again? Yeah, start with Kendra.
Oh my God, yes. Yes. 1,000,000 times for Scarlett, I would do it again. Yep.
Absolutely. It's had its ups and downs. It's been tricky, but there would be... there is...
right there. on time.
I would not change it for the world. I've got a little video there as well, play afterwards. One of the reasons why I do love being a dev and being a mum, I get to share my love and my job with my kids. And there's a video there of they're saying goodnight to me and I'm showing them a game.
And you know, we work in the coolest industry for kids. They think we're super cool.
It's also great when you go to a meetup. It's great when you go to a meetup and other mums are, you know, oh, I do this and I do that, and my kids don't get to have to look at screens. They don't play games. Like, I make games.
I get that a lot too. I also got a lot of parents saying, will you talk to my kid who desperately wants to be in your industry?
A lot of that. And like, how come Cooper's mum's got a good job and I don't? And I'm like...
So yes, absolutely. It's hard to beat all of that, but I would absolutely do it all again. I can't imagine life without Isabel at the moment. She really is the light of our life. She is really fun, giggly. She likes to say yes, demand bananas all the time. It's her favourite food. And yeah, I can't wait to show her that she can do anything as well by working in this industry and continuing to work in this industry.
And you are showing her, Jess. You've already shown her.
Huh?
You are showing her.
Oh, well, she will grow up with me continuing to show her.
Seeing mums working. I think that's really important. When we were putting this panel together, I came across this quote from Susan Wojcicki, who was a former CEO of YouTube, who unfortunately passed away a few months ago. And the story was about her sort of reflecting on not just her career, but her, you know, being a mother as well. And she was a CEO of YouTube and she had 5 children, which is quite a lot. But I thought this was a really poignant quote. So I want people to realise that it really is okay, that you can have a family. I don't feel like I'm a perfect mum, and there are times at work where I feel like maybe I wasn't perfect here because of the constraints on my time. And I think, you know, we've all felt that, and probably most of you have felt that are parents as well. Having the sum of both of these things going on in my life makes me a better mum at the end of the day, and I think it gives me really important perspectives in the workplace as well. So I thought that was really powerful, and I'm pretty sure you'd all agree. So
powerful.
So hopefully you've gotten something from all of our stories today. We could have kept talking for ages. I think we've run through this quite a few times, and each time I've heard something different, and I'm sure you've all got something different to share as well. You know, being a mum, being a parent isn't easy. Being an employer, being an employee isn't easy. But, you know, somehow we can make it all happen. So thank you very much for sharing your story. And look, we've got some extra time. So if anyone, we've got allowed some time for some Q&A. Or even, you don't even have to ask a question. Do you want to share your own story, your own experiences of your workplace, or being a parent? Tell us a funny story about your kid. We don't mind. So here we go.
Of course, yeah. I got a loud voice. I don't need it.
One thing you haven't mentioned, but it's super important, just general for women everywhere, the superannuation gap. So because women do take time off, they're not paying super. And so I think one of those things is, or you can speak on it if you want, but like introducing salary sacrificing for adding super later, and making sure that salaries are a decent package to be able to implement that for women.
What an amazing point.
Yeah,
I'd
huge
not
point.
thought about that. I thought about the gap in salary, when you're taking time off and stuff, but oh my God, very interesting point. I'm certainly going to be taking that back to my executive team. I'd not considered that, but yeah, my super took a massive hit during my downtime. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and it's actually as an employer, it's quite an easy policy to implement. And I actually thought the legislation on that's changing as well.
Well, we do have
I'm
salary
pretty sure.
sacrificing, but yeah, maybe...
just paying your staff super when they're being paid maternity leave.
Yes, yeah.
That's you can do it.
That's huge, yep. And it's not that much to pay as an employer as well, but certainly something I've not thought about at all. Yeah. Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Hi, thanks for your talk. I was actually really looking forward to this one. I'm a mother to a 13-year-old and a little girl who's about to turn 8 on Friday. And it's because of them I've finally decided to move into the industry that I have always wanted to. As somebody who is still very fresh, though, one of my things is once I get to the point where I'm wanting to put myself in front of, more established companies and all that sort of stuff is I'm nervous about the fact that I am a mother. It's like, is it sort of the thing that I should be bringing up in interviews or not? I'm not really too sure how to approach that.
I know exactly how you feel. I hid the majority of the time through my career. I never spoke about my child at all. I acted like one of the guys because I wasn't taken as seriously when they saw me as a mum, even though I had nothing to do with my job. When I came back to work, I was relegated. So I think we had 40 people in the studio and I was the only female at the time. And so I had to do all the lunch orders for the team, every week and organise all the party events and stuff. That's not my thing. That's not what I do at all. But the industry's really changed a lot and I love hiring parents. I think there's a forced work-life balance that a parent brings that I didn't have before I had my daughter. And you know what? I actually want that as an employer. I don't want my staff to be burnt out 100% of the time. You make shitty games when you run teams like that. So for me, if you told me that you were a mum when you were being interviewed, I would ask you all about your kid and I'd want to know more about you. I don't think it takes away from, it adds. And that's something that I think people are starting to really see and recognise. And protecting those boundaries for your work-life balance is actually really important and it's kind of enforced on you as a mother because you have to do it. And that's something that I want to replicate for everybody who works for me, not just mothers. So I wouldn't shy away from it. I would talk about who you are and being a mother and your kids is a big part of that story. And you bring a lot of different things when you're a mother about multitasking and about prioritising, tasks and things like that, compassion, empathy, understanding, and all sorts of things that I probably had less of before I had my daughter. So, no, I think you should. And also, welcome to the industry.
Yeah.
Hi, great talk. As a person who doesn't plan on having kids, do you have advice for how to be better co-workers for our people, friends and co-workers who have children of their own?
What a beautiful question.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I think definitely being an ally to a parent is amazing. It's awesome. I love this question. I think the first thing I'd say, which I had, is when they complain about their kids, it's not that they hate their kids.
They just need someone to vent.
They are just...
Safe place to vent.
They are just venting, yes. So, you don't go around and tell people, oh, I love my partner, they are the best, they're absolutely awesome, they're everything. You go around and say, oh, bloody hell, they snored so loud last night. It's not like they're trying to get rid of their partner. They're not after advice how to get rid of them. The same thing with... the same thing with people with children. We're not trying to tell you how horrible they are. We're just having a little vent. We still love them dearly. So I think that's the first thing. Just be like, oh, yep, awesome. Just allow them that. But like if they are late, or if they do say that they're sick, if they can't make it to something, I think it's just having that compassion that. Yeah, it's different when you have little kids especially. They need a bit of that grace because life is very, very hard when you have young children, even older children. don't think that they hate you or that they're trying to avoid you. Be interested in their children, I think, is another thing. It's great when you're a parent and someone is interested in your kids and, they ask you, oh, how are they going? How's kindy going for them? I think showing interest in them too is really sweet.
Get them a coffee and tell them to take a nap as well.
If they have a baby, hold their baby. Just let them pee in peace or have a coffee in peace. They will love you.
And also champion them when they take time off for their kids. I have some pretty incredible employees here who don't have kids, and I must say that every single time, I can't do this because I've got too many deadlines or anything, they are like, no, you're going home. Make sure, really champion them for having that time with their kids. It makes it a lot easier, and I really appreciate it.
In terms of improving on mat leave policies and flexibility there, what are your thoughts on non-consecutive mat leave, like taking them in chunks of months at a time, maybe so you could interchange with another parent or a support person? And do you reckon, especially for you, Jess, who did have that swap with part-time with your partner, how likely do you think that you'd take that in terms of chunks of time rather than just splitting up the week?
I think we split up the week because we had very different roles within the same company. So Julian's a technical lead. He has to do all the programming stuff, especially in that early time, which is really important. And I was more narrative lead. I'm not saying my job was less than at all, because it was really important for us to try and discover the narrative of Memento as well. And I needed that time to come back to work because I was also facing postpartum depression and that loss of identity that you get when you have a really, really young child. So that's why that sort of worked for us. I think the chunks of time is a great policy, and I know that the government is doing, they implemented something where you can give part of your maternity leave if you're self-employed to your partner. So I think if it works for particular couples, then it's definitely something to explore. But yeah, that it just wouldn't have worked for us. So that's why I think our arrangement worked really, really well.
As an employer, we've just changed our policy to be able to allow you to take chunks of time off and actually work out on your terms when you would like to take that time off and split it or share it and things like that as well. From a perspective of somebody who's hiring or as a manager, that's great, because I don't necessarily want them to completely leave, the project and what's going on. If they can just keep up to date, even just a little bit, it helps. It helps me, helps the parent. Yeah, love that. I think people are starting to move more and more that direction, like the bigger organisations.
Yeah. I think as well, being able to split the time is great, as long as it works for the person who's taking that time off as well. Some women who take the time off, they might need more time at the beginning because of the what happened at birth. Some women need a longer recovery time if they've had an emergency cesarean, or they've had to have some ongoing surgery. And there's also it's way harder at the start to look after a small child. It's a lot more work.
Yeah, thank you. And also, in terms of that, I think it's great to hear, especially that you've implemented that in terms of not having as much of that sense of loss of momentum for your career necessarily, and obviously flexibility first. It means it's different for each couple. Thanks. It
benefits both the employer and the employee.
Yeah, it's a creative solution from a creative industry, and let's face it,
why
a lot
not?
of what we're doing is project based, right? So it kind of makes sense. Look, I'm really sorry, everybody. We have to call time out. Just got the closing keynote in this room. Thank you to these wonderful bunch of women and mums who came to us with this idea.